think the most important quality of a leader is wisdom, so that the decisions that are being made now, he knows how, it's like a chess player who sees 10 moves ahead.
Unajua wakati ambapo mlipa ushuru analipa ushuru wake, anataka aone angalau kazi ya pesa yake ambapo anailipia. Pesa tunaamini kwa zinaishia kwa mifuko za watu binafsi.
I think it's important that wealth is declared frequently, and if people have found ways to accumulate wealth very quickly, absolutely good for them, as long as, of course, that is done honestly and ethically.
We need leaders who are well educated to understand the challenges that we face in the modern world.
Kwa mfano, mtu mwenye amesomea ukandarasi wa barabara, mkiwa na kiongozi ambaye amesomea hiyo taaluma, una uhakika kwamba barabara za eneo lako zitakuwa zina usimamizi mzuri.
The government is really trying, IT especially, and IT can be seen because of the wide Kenyan presence online.
We're able to transport guys easily and quickly through the SGR.
Sasa shida ya hii barabara tu moja ni choo. Hakuna choo huku barabarani.
Facilities zimekuja karibu, especially shule na moto kama stima. Sasa hii ziko mpaka kwa mashinani.
My two boys, both of them were delivered in a government facility. The maternity services off the hook.
You may find that in a hospital, it's more developed, yes, but there are no medicines, there are no doctors.
Dawa unanunua nje, kupimwa, unaenda unapimwa nje, sasa hapo ukuja ni kuandikiwa tu.
There's a lot of people walking around in the country with mental health issues that have gone unidentified.
Kuna shida usalama sana because unakuta watu hata during the day they are being robbed. Mostly even when you call the police, kuna kitu watakusaidia nayo, they'll just tell you come and record statement. After that, nothing.
Kila mtu apewe huduma sawa. Si ati wale wengine wale wenye nafasi ya juu wanapewa huduma za bora kushinda watu wa chini.
Platforms such as e-citizens are very useful in making it easier for citizens to be able to access the necessary and requisite documents that allow them to begin their journey of formalization.
Before Vision 2030, if you look at what we had in 2002 and before that, it's not comparable to what we have today. Today with Huduma centers, you can really do a lot. Passports and your driving license and your NHIF card and all that. I think those for me have been very impressive. Does the system work completely smooth? No.
Kwa mfano mimi nimezaliwa Nakuru, nimezaliwa mahali hapa inaitwa Bondeni Hospital. Nilipoenda kuchukua ID, nilikuwa vetted, of which I believe my documents za shule is enough documents to prove I'm a Kenyan and my birth certificate. Those are enough documents. So I don't know why you are being vetted. In fact, hata saa hizi watoto wetu wengi for the last 2 years hawajapata ID since COVID yanze because there was no vetting committee.
I lost my ID and I was going to replace it. It's been a month. Yet a friend of mine that we went to do it at the same time got it 2 weeks after.
I should be able to see the service being prepared for me and talk about the quality, about how it is being done. Is it going to achieve what I want? Is the cost right?
Kusema kweli, ukiangalia wana Kenya kijumla, hasa wale ambayo wamebobea katika biashara, wengi sana wanajivunia kuwa wana Kenya kwa sababu ya biashara. Biashara yote ambayo utaweka Kenya na ufanye katika njia nzuri, utakuta ya kwamba inanawiri sana. Ukiangalia wengi sana, kama tukikumbuka marehemu Chris Kirobi, alikuwa ni mfanyabiashara mzuri sana na amebobea kwa sababu ni mwekezaji local investor, lakini alibobea vizuri sana katika biashara yake. Na kuna wengi ambaye pia wamefanya biashara hapa Kenya kwa kuweka rasilimali zao na wakaendelea vizuri sana, na hii huwa inaendeleza katika uchumi ya Kenya.
Geographically we're in a solid position where we are. We have the port, we have all that, and we are a hub. Can we become a better hub?
Well, the ultimate goal and objective of Vision 2030 is to create a middle-income country in which all Kenyans can live a prosperous life. Not ostentatious by any means, but prosperous. And that means that we need all the other aspects of Vision 2030, not just the economic.
Accessing the regional markets can be a challenge because of the policy environment. Non-tariff barriers that you encounter on a day-to-day as you do business can be a challenge to Kenya. The East African community on a day-to-day are confronted with quite a number of youths looking for employment, and I am not able to employ them. It really is a very needy situation that we need to address as a country, because we have quite a big population of youths.
One thing I know is that we stopped teaching art and design in primary school, and I don't know why. We have to look at what the youth is interested in, and we also have to look at how to cultivate these interests from a younger age.
We all operate in different areas. For me, in the private sector, I'm more involved in the economic pillar. There are those who are involved in the social pillar. There are those who are involved in the political pillar. And so if we take our roles, I think we'll be able to accomplish Vision 2030.
elections. Every 5 years, our elections. Civic order occasioned, which occasioned, different losses, especially in our economy. We had a drop in, if you look at, there's a drop in GDP. It basically forced the business community to come together to be able to quell the problems that we had then. So we are a nonpartisan multi-stakeholder platform whose primary purpose is to inspire Kenyans towards peaceful elections and prosperity thereafter. So we were launched in 2012, having drawn lessons from the PV in 2007, 2008. It's basically inspired by the private sector, but it is for all Kenyans. We do not want the painful lessons that we learned in 2007, 2008. We said that once bitten, twice shy. So at that time we were caught unawares, but this time we have been, having these conversations every election year. Yeah, I remember in 2013, Kenya Daima really played a big role in quelling the tensions that were there. That happened again in 2017. So we worked together with the religious sector, the civil society, organized sector groups, the public sector. We also engaged the diplomatic community and the media and the entire business community to have this discussion. So we have various phases of Kenya Daima. The first phase, basically creating citizenship awareness and commitment to peaceful elections. So we're saying that we want to move from, mwenye nchi sio mwenye nchi. You heard Kenyans talking about haki yetu, but this time we're talking about wajibu wangu. Phase 2, we want to celebrate Kenya and handling the negatives that divide us as Kenyans. And that's why we talk about Tushangilie Kenya, the song that we keep singing, Tushangilie Kenya. Then the third phase, we rally all Kenyans to be responsible. So we're talking about wajibu wangu. This happened from November 2013. So we moved from wajibu wetu to wajibu wangu. How can I take responsibility, for this country? And then phase 4, national values. Basically, we're talking about accountability, transparency, and leadership ethos as articulated in the Constitution. The next slide. Yeah, so we have had several achievements. Stakeholder engagements. We launched Kenya Daima in 2012. We have had gubernatorial debates. We have met with media owners, meeting with the youth representatives, meeting with development partners, and of course the debates, and also involving religious leaders and women organizations. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is also really part of the, the social pillar of Kenya Daima, and we're talking about a call to action to our leaders. So here we basically sign what we're calling the Peace Pledge. As you know, elections is like, and we keep saying that election is like a football or an athletic race. So when you go into an election, you must know that you can win and you can lose. So these 3 pillars, basically, the first pillar, the political pillar, talks about leadership and governance. So we're asking who are the leaders that you put onto that seat. Then we have the economic pillar, where we talk about people-centered and economic-led manifestos. So politics is usually about the economy. In America, they say it's about the economy, stupid. So whoever you put into the presidency, gubernatorial seats, parliament, are they addressing the economic issues that affect the country? Then the last one, which is the social pillar, we're talking about the peaceful elections and smooth transition. As you know, peaceful elections and smooth transitions of power is very, very important of our democracy. So this is a culture. Elections will always be there. And we must be ready as a people to be able to create a peaceful transition from one government to another. So the social pillar is the signing of what we're calling My Leadership and Peace Pledge, where leaders pledge not only to campaign peacefully, but also we are saying that our leaders must be able to preach peace during elections, but most importantly, we are saying that you must be ready to accept the outcome of an election. So when you go into an election, you have to be prepared for two outcomes. You should be prepared, to win, and in the case that you win, you must be able to embrace the losers, because when you are the governor and or the president, you become the governor of everybody, including that person who was running against you. So that is very, very important. But the second point, which again is very, very important, is that if you lose, then we want you to be able to concede defeat. So in this case, we are saying that all politicians should have two speeches. Have your victory speech ready, but also have your concession speech, just in the event that you lose. Yeah, so because you never know. So this is really, really very critical. So the desired result is having good leadership and accountable governance in place for a prosperous, thriving, and peaceful country. So, ladies and gentlemen, our call to action here as Mkenya Daima is nitatenda wajibu wangu. So what we are saying and what we keep preaching every now and then is that if everyone does his responsibility, mimi nikitenda wajibu wangu, then everything will be okay. So wajibu wangu, especially for the youth. For the youth, we are saying wajibu wangu itakuwa ni kupiga kura na kuchagua viongozi bora na kudumisha amani. So this is a message we keep pounding to the youth, everyone. So as a citizen, your responsibility, of course, is to pay taxes that fund the governments. But during election time, you have to listen to the politicians. And after listening to the politicians, you vote, go home, wait for the results, and accept the results of the election. For the politician, your responsibility is to campaign peacefully and, of course, as I said earlier on, accept the result. Last and most important is for the electoral management bodies. We are telling them they have a responsibility to ensure that the electoral management process is done in a free, credible, and a manner that will be accepted by everyone. So thank you so much. That is my presentation. I think I'll now call upon Martha to invite the next speaker. Thank you.
Tumesikia maneno ya wajibu wangu, na kwa vile tunapenda kuongea na kusema wajibu wetu, tungeomba sote tuseme mimi ni Mkenya daima, nitatenda wajibu wangu. That is our call to action to everyone. So let's say that together, that we are all in this together. Let's go again. Mimi ni Mkenya daima, nitatenda wajibu wangu. We say it. That's the call to action for everyone. So please remember that as we head on to the 9th of August. The fourth estate, we appreciate you. Those online, asante sana. Now we are the heart of the discussion. You've seen among the pillars of Mkenya Daima is that economic pillar is one of them. And that enables a country to flourish. So let us hear from the private sector. What are the aspirations of Nairobi County? And Mheshimiwa, as you listen to that, we look forward to also listening to you to tell us what you have in store for the team here and those ones online. For the questions for those online, please start scribbling them down, put on the chats. We will receive very few questions and then they can be responded to. As our CEO comes in, let us clap Atama Marambili. Let's go. Atama is one. So we go Atama, Karibu CEO, then you'll invite Mheshimiwa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martha, and good morning, everyone. For those who are here and those who are joining us online, at least COVID taught us that you can all be in one meeting. by being present physically or online. And I just want to say karibuni again to Honorable Sakaja, Senator of Nairobi, who worked very closely with Kepsa over the last many years, when you were MP and then Senator, and your DG, Mushiri, who comes from a member organization, ABSA. So karibu sana to this meeting, to Mushai, who is a director in charge of local businesses and local private sector. So, and here we are this morning talking about local private sector, local investments, local city, and so, and to everyone else who is here this morning representing different organizations, the associations of Kepsa, the companies, and some of our partners who are here this morning. I just want to say karibuni, and thank you for braving the Upper Hill traffic. We will try and have our meetings away from Upper Hill. I know I've seen some complaints this morning because people couldn't get here on time, but it's okay. I think we're glad that business is flourishing and our hotels in town are full, that we can't even get a space this morning. So for me, that's excellent. So going very fast into the matter of the day, and as we're talking about a full city, the hotels being full, I think that's what we want to see. But how do we get our private sector out there? I won't go into the basics of introducing Kepsa. I'll maybe have the slide on our organizations, just to have a slide there to see who are our members. We're really the apex body of the private sector in Kenya, and very proud to really bring together the business associations, the Chamber of Commerces, the professional bodies, the corporates from multinationals, medium, small enterprises, and startups from all sectors of the economy, so that we can speak in one voice on cross-cutting issues, and so that our associations can continue to pursue their issues that are sectoral. And so those are some of our member organizations. We have about 450 corporates and over 90 business associations, which are listed below and giving us over 1 million members. And when we bring ICC Kenya, which we host, that gives us a connection to 45 million businesses around the world. And that makes us really proud of how we can engage and enrich our discussions and an impact of businesses. And the way we engage again is through the sector boards that are organized sectoral. We engage with the ministries through the ministerial stakeholder forums, the speakers roundtable, where we met Senator Sakaja many times. So we have Senate and Parliament. And then we also have with selected agencies, KRA, CBK, Immigration, AG, and others. Then on the other side, we bring in, and on the Chief Justice Forum, the Council of Governors, the development partners, the regional forums, and all that comes together under the Presidential Roundtable that we meet at least twice a year. Of course, with COVID, we've not managed to meet as often as we did, but we hope, even as we move into the next administration, this will continue. We still have one more meeting before elections. And so that's really about us. And so about Nairobi, in our home county where we are here today. Let me brief us a little bit, just a little facts about Nairobi and why we really need to take care of this city. Nairobi's output is Kenya shillings 3.2 trillion, which is 97% equivalent to Kenya's national budget. So for Honorable Sakaja and others who are aspiring to be governors, can you imagine what this city is about and what it contributes? As of 2020, Nairobi is estimated to have contributed an average of 27.5% to Kenya's GDP over the last 8 years. If Nairobi were a country, its GDP per capita would be more than $5,700 US. In comparison to just a few counties, you can see in terms of the average contribution to national GDP in the last 8 years, 27.25. The closest is Kiambu at 5.9, Mombasa 5.2, Nakuru 4.9, Machakos 3.4. So that really tells you the importance of this city that we are seated here today. In terms of repositioning, what do we really want to do? We want to reposition Nairobi as Africa's economic and financial capital. Today, we are the fifth largest country in terms of GDP in Africa. But if we made Nairobi in terms of, and we've seen its contribution, Kenya would actually be the largest economy in Africa. And so this is what we must do to really look at Nairobi. And so how are we dividing what we are looking at Nairobi? We want to make it a competitive city, a green city, an inclusive city, a resilient city, and a safe city. So those are the areas that we want to look at: mobility and transport, integrated urban and land use planning, water, wastage water and solid waste management, healthcare, safety, security and disaster risk management, ICT infrastructure, e-governance, compliance and enforcement, competitiveness and jobs, safe and healthy food. So we want to deepen our technology and innovation, digitization skills and capacity building, planning and coordination, cohesive policies and institutions, business and financing partnerships. So those are the areas that would make Nairobi that capital that we are looking at. In terms of transport and mobility, what do we need to do? A few things, and I'm not going to a lot of the details because this document will be circulated for all of us to integrate, work with it and really look at it and see where we need to improve. First is deploy urban mobility solutions and digital technology for traffic monitoring and management. We've talked about this morning how many people really were caught up in traffic trying to get here. We really need to withdraw our traffic police. Cities that are smart, cities that are functioning, don't have traffic police monitoring traffic because you avoid the extortions, you avoid the traffic mismanagement. What you need is just digital technology. The police need to sit in an office and be able to see what's happening in the streets and be able to come for you if you're misbehaving on the roads, but not them managing the traffic. Work with Nairobi Metropolitan Transport, NAMATA. When NAMATA was set up, we all celebrated in the private sector to fully operationalize the mass rapid transport system. You know, it's so sad that a country that is our neighbor like Tanzania and Ethiopia have done this, Dar es Salaam and Addis Ababa. We are yet to get there. We started this discussion in 2005 in Kepsa. We are yet to actualize this. No city will develop without a mass rapid transport system. If people can't get to work on time and be productive because of what they have to go through, either walking or matatus or all manner of ways to trying to get to work, we will never be productive as a city. We have to make BRT system work. The matatus and boda who feed the buses going into the city and reduce city congestion and make the city also a walking city for safe tourism. For those of us who visited other countries like Europe, what we enjoy most is walking in the city. I don't know how many are seated here today or online take a time over the weekend and just stroll in the city to enjoy the city, stop at restaurants, eat out at a restaurant, enjoy the old buildings and all that. We don't do that, but we go to other countries to enjoy exactly that. That is tourism. That is money for the city. Those are jobs that we are not creating, and that's why it's so important. Adequate transport infrastructure through road expansion and installation of world-class traffic monitoring and control system. So we are glad to see some footpaths that are coming on. We see what the roads are happening. We cannot stop that journey. Fully implement the integrated national transport policy to streamline the public transport system. I always say this in all my meetings when I discuss transport. We do not have public transport in this country. Matatus are my members. So anyone who says we have public transport, that is not public transport. Public transport is a whole different ballgame, and that's what we have to get. And imagine, when we have public transport, one of the largest costs for employees is transport, and I'll mention the rest, housing and water. If we sort that out, what will reduce is labor costs. We are one of the most expensive labor cost country. And it's not the fault of all of us seated here. It's because of the cost of living on those basics. So if we sorted some of that, our labor costs will go down. So we'll be able to employ more people and our productivity will go up. And that's what will make this city what it's supposed to be. Establish a fully equipped and fully equip the traffic management center and use of installed CCTV to traffic management. Again, going back to what I was saying about transport, CCTVs, and let's be able to encourage our courts to use CCTVs as evidence in court, because sometimes that's what discourages the security sector to use CCTVs because they're not admissible in court. So if we can use that in court, then we can get that working. Partner with the private sector to create infrastructure for non-motorized transport in order to address the burgeoning demand for better access in the city. Key infrastructure needed include a networking of high-quality walking and cycling facilities, bike sharing programs, bike parking and storage facilities. Today, if I ride my bike to the city, there's nowhere to park. So we need to be able to establish all that. And the economic benefits are really seamless urban mobility as expected, that will increase productivity and save economic costs lost through the 2 man-hour wasted as a result of traffic, additionally to reduce pollution and congestion. We all signed into the climate change. Kenya is a signatory of COP26 on how we're going to really affect climate change. We cannot do that if we don't sort out our transport issues. The second thing, and one of the most important ones, and there's a meeting with part of our members in the next room, KPDA, and I know Mushai is part of that, and he's here with us today. Integrated urban and land use planning, intervention areas of optimized spatial planning. Just seated there with Honorable Sakaja, one of the things we said, without order, we're going nowhere. And if we look at what is happening to all our cities, Nairobi, Mombasa, and every small town is disorder. No investor, local or foreign, will want to invest where there's disorder. So we have to deploy integrated tools to combine GIS data and big data analytics on public and private land, properties, recreational and cultural spaces in a centralized way to optimize urban planning. Proactively create land banks and avail them to the private sector for industrial and affordable housing development through PPP model. Why should I be able to say I only have 100 shillings a month, so let me put a shanty anywhere, find a piece of land somewhere, put it up, the next person does the same. We shouldn't do that, but we should be able to have land banks. And when we incentivize the private sector, then we can create the affordable housing, reclaim all land, public land and recreational spaces, and pull down all buildings in public spaces as a way, as well as on road reserves, so that we start creating order and reorganize our cities. Renovate depleted recreational spaces and parks. It's good to see some of the work that's happening in Uhuru Park and Jamhuri Park, but there are so many other small parks in our neighborhoods that we need to be able to reclaim so that our children can stop being on PlayStation all day and go outside and enjoy the sunlight. Institute development control by implementing the revised zoning regulations to ensure developments are done at the right places. Along this, ensure downtown conversion to create proper working spaces and outdoor sittings, as I'd mentioned earlier, for restaurants and bars, to move also from residential. I mean, many of us are now complaining, always calling the county, come and shut down this bar, come and shut down this, in the residential. But if we turned our city into the bars and the restaurants and attracted and gave incentives to the private sector seated here today and online, we'll all invest down there, and our residential areas will be peaceful places to live and bring up our families. Zoning of residential versus office spaces, industrial, everything has become mixed development. It cannot be that the whole country or the whole city is all about mixed development. We can have some areas that we can have mixed development, but let's zone and say these are office areas, these are residential areas, these are shopping areas. Even in residential areas, now you're seeing a street mall coming up anywhere, a petrol station every corner. We are quoting disaster. So you have a petrol station surrounded by a lot of residential. If there was a fire, you're not only going to be dealing with the people in the petrol station, you're dealing with the whole neighborhood affected. We cannot continue like that as a county. And whatever we do here in Nairobi is replicated in every other city. So it's important that we set the rules in the big city, and other cities will follow suit. Residential areas to be rebuilt through the master spatial plan, catering for all prices to cater order. Low income, public housing by government. Public housing has to be done by government. We know every country has public housing because not all of us are endowed to be able to earn a living enough to own a house or to be able to pay rent. Then affordable housing through PPPs, where the private sector is able to come in, and we are glad to see some of the affordable housing that are coming up, but we need to do more. And then commercial housing for different areas, which are well planned with social spaces. Security is easily managed through national addressing system. What's so funny? Last week, I have to tell you this, I was in Arusha and went to the countryside. They have an addressing system. Even on hearts, it has a number, So they've already gone so far, not only in the city and the towns, but they've gone to the rural areas and numbered all the houses. And for me, I look at this and I say, why are neighbors overtaking us in everything that we started before them? Something is not right among ourselves. And this really brings quality of life, attracts investors, but also security, because it's easy to know who's where, who's living where, and how to go after the criminals when you have a national addressing system. Water and wastewater management, intervention areas. Storm grey and black water, develop integrated systems to manage urban water supply and wastewater systems and ensure they are handled efficiently and intelligently. Develop sewage systems for proper channeling of wastewater and proper treatment. Diseases, we're quoting many diseases as the population increases. If we don't sort out some of these things, we're not going to manage the health crisis that we'll have as a county. Adopt smart solutions for waste and water management based on real-time data, and we've seen others done. And those are two pictures to tell you the difference, what we have and what can become, because it's being done elsewhere. Adopt metered zoning systems and institute regulatory frameworks to address water cartels. Whenever I see those blue trucks, I know where they're getting their water. They have closed someone else's tap, filled their truck so they can go and sell, And there are many times I have called the county and say, you know what, on Lenana Road, please go and open that tap. And they go and open because they know where it is closed, because someone closed it. We cannot develop a city that way. Review by city bylaws on water use to reduce borehole drilling rates. Everywhere it's a borehole now. Allow water harvesting and introduce a compulsory requirement for contractors to include water harvesting as part of their housing and building designs. What are the private sector overview? Supply of reliable and potable water to urban residents alongside wastewater and drainage networks are a basic service the cities need to provide. In recent years, due to climate change impacts, aging infrastructure, and growing water demand due to urbanization and increasing household incomes, smart technologies can be deployed to address these challenges. A case study is a pilot program on how to use smart devices for drinking water management in Dhaka, Bangladesh. Bangladesh has done this. What more? We're not even talking about a big country in Europe or in America. We're talking about Bangladesh. If Bangladesh has done it, we can do it. And could offer insights on this, where technologies are used to monitor the city water network for leaks and to ensure that clean, pasteurized water was delivered 24 hours a day or residents. Today you pump your water and what comes out is brown water. We can't continue like that if we're going to continue. Integrate, in terms of economic benefits, integrated water and wastewater management will improve the overall health outcomes and access to water for industries and over 60% of households who have no continuous access. This will increase the county revenue and curb the infiltration of water cartels. On the third one, as I said, we are looking at 5 areas. So I'm on the third one, or still on the third B, solid waste management, and I'll move fast on this one. Adopt smart waste management systems and devices. Deploy circular economy practices for waste. Redirect recyclables from reaching the Dandora dump site. Everything we throw in one bin. It's about time we started separating that. Establish waste receptacles and material recovery facilities at the ward level. Establish aerobic composting plants to manage organic. See the 2 pictures, what we can have, the different bins. And this is, a city can make this decision through a bylaw, and we can all start using that. In terms of private sector overview, solid waste management is a documented threat to health and the environment. An estimated 2,400 tons of solid waste is generated every day, 20% which is in plastic form. We are all talking about the dangers of plastic. Of the waste generated by the city, only 45% is recycled, reused or transformed into a form which can yield an economic or ecological benefit, a far cry from the 80% target by the National Environment Management Authority, NEMA. A case study in Eastleigh, 48% of residents indicated that they discard waste along the road in heap drainage. Further 35% indicated putting waste in dustbins, which eventually end up in undesignated areas. Challenges related to waste management include infrequent, irregular waste collection. We all remember days of, what did you used to call it in Kanjo? Camero. Do you remember Camero? Camero is coming. And the waste was collected. You know, what happened? You know, I keep saying we are the one city that talks about we used to have, now we don't. Most countries talked, we didn't have, now we have. So can we get back to what we used to have? Illegal dumping, low levels of information on poor waste disposal, and lack of concern. One of my challenges with the county and government in general. We look at these things, they are good. Tomorrow we move in with the police and start enforcing. It doesn't work. You know, we first need to put the systems in place, educate the people on the dangers of dumping, on waste, on environment, then start enforcing. So maybe that's what we're talking about, Honorable Sakaja and your team. If on 9th August, you're the next governor, please do not send Kanjo to us. Before we have put systems in place for anything, we have educated the people, and then we can enforce. This thing of saying there's a bylaw today, tomorrow we move in with the Kanjo, people resist. And that's when we all form cartels. We start bribing, we find ways out. You know, but if we teach people, we put the systems first, and then we enforce, no one will complain. Economic benefits, improvement of well-being of approximately 4.8% of Nairobi residents who do not have access to waste collection services. Improved waste management system is also expected to reduce environmental pollution and enhance revenue collection through maximum recovery of value. It's actually a source of revenue for the county. When we do waste management, when we do recycling, you can make a lot of money even as a county government. On the fourth one, and my second last one, healthcare systems, intervention areas of efficient healthcare systems. Build a comprehensive health information system and provide tailored healthcare systems to the citizens. It is not rocket science. We are in the technology age. So what was so difficult before becomes so easy now because everything can be used in technology. Support telemedicine. We don't all need to be going into hospitals for a cold, for anything that the doctor doesn't really need to examine our bodies. And even now, they're examining a lot, even by just using telemedicine without having to go to hospitals. Roll out innovative, affordable health insurance options like micro-insurance to the uninsured and complement NHIF. Private insurers can also be incentivized to partner with the county in rolling out insurance schemes. Initiate PPPs in development of healthcare facilities, partnership in acquiring medical machines. I know this is work that has started. I think we just need to do it better and do it much more, that are too expensive, arrangements for sharing resources between county and healthcare centers. Leverage on technology to provide innovative healthcare solutions, telemedical services, e-health, and all. Complement public health care facilities, e.g. offering them a free maternity program that has been going on, specialized treatment facilities, e.g. cancer diagnosis and treatment, but a lot also has to go into prevention. So we're talking about healthcare systems here, but I think I have to pause and say, if we don't go into prevention measures, like what we do with water and all that, we will not be able to deal with the burden of the healthcare, that no matter what facilities that we put in place. Collaborate with the private sector in medical research. I think there's a lot of collaboration the county can do with us, and we do a lot of research into the different areas, into different solutions, into the different prevention measures, and be able to come out with an improved quality healthcare. Train the healthcare practitioners much more to ensure efficient medical personnel for UHC implementation. The economic benefit is improvement of health outcomes, will yield greater productivity and reduce mortality rates, while creating jobs and additional revenue streams of the county. You know, we need to be reducing the morgues and all that and not increasing them. And also we be able to have a healthy, productive workforce. On the last one, on 5A, safety and security. In terms of intervention areas to enhance security, work collaboratively with the Interior Ministry to ensure police, county askaris and private sector agencies apply digital solutions to expand real-time surveillance of public spaces to improve the prevention. You cannot employ everyone as a county, you cannot employ everyone as government, but we're here as private sector. If we collaborate in terms of digital solutions, if a watchman is standing at a gate and they're connected to a central place in the county, they can pass information. You know, you don't need to have a police officer or a county officer walking in every street or in every residential. We all have watchmen around in different residential areas. Integrate that system and we can work together. And that's what we are offering here today. We've always worked very closely with government, whether it's county or national government, And our work is to offer solutions, to offer partnership. Implement the national addressing system to improve security on all buildings and houses, are numbered to, and this will also help in the redistribution of social services. Develop shelters and rehabilitation of homes of street families, and relocate them away from the city center. I know that process has started, but how do we make sure that we relocate them to safer places and help them integrate back in the society so that they are not a security risk, but also for their sake? Because as we said, we are an inclusive city. We said we have to be an inclusive city. We can't segregate ourselves and say we who can do something, we live away from those who do not have. We have to integrate together and live as one city. Economic benefits, improve security will enhance safety, well-being, and economic outcomes. Better security will also progressively contribute to 24-hour working economy. Today, there are many people who would work night shifts or half night shifts, but the fear is always security. And that also goes to getting home. And that's where the BRT comes in. You know, the mass rapid transport system has to be working 24 hours so that people feel safe. Because today I don't want to enter Matatu in the middle of the night because I don't know who's there. But when we have buses and they are well monitored and they are working as a PPP, then I'll work until midnight and go home, and someone else can start another shift at 1 a.m. National addressing system will spur economic growth, particularly in the realms of e-commerce and small and medium enterprises, improve security, distribution of self-services, as well as boosting. Today, if you want to know how many people live in a certain region, and if you have a numbering system, you don't need to go door to door to counting them. You know, you'll be able to know these are the number of households because your national addressing system is already there, and you know in this region, these are the numbers, the houses are numbered between 1 and 200, so I have 200 households, and I can deal with that, and I know what services they need, how much water we need to pump on that area, what else we need to put in that area. On B, disaster risk management, that's intervention areas of proactive DRM, develop integrated multi-hazard early warning systems manned by a centralized unit. You know, today when a house collapses or there's a fire, by the time the whole system works, we lose many lives, we lose a lot of property. So if we had an integrated hazard system, and I think for those who've been Kepsa for a long time, I think you all remember when we had a house collapse in Huruma, and in the middle of the night, I had to get contractors because by the time the police and the disaster management moved, we were going to lose a lot of people. They were getting there at midnight. Our own contractors who were doing a road in Jogoo Road got there at 10 p.m. and started removing and get the debris to get people out, you know. But if we have an integrated system, that doesn't need to happen, you know. And a whole night we spent doing that. So by the time government was coming in, we had done a lot of work. But that's because Red Cross was able to call me quickly and ask me, can I find some contractors who are working on the road, because it was raining a whole night, to be able to rush there in Huruma and start doing that. And this is what we need to avoid, because we don't know. I mean, we don't quote disaster, but disaster does happen. Allocate and ring fence at least 5% of the county budget for county emergency contingency fund. I didn't even call anyone in the county. I didn't know who to call. I don't even know if they have, what systems they have, you know. So I called national government, but I live in Nairobi. Kepsa is in Nairobi. We would have called the county as the first call. You know, establish and operationalize the county disaster operational center, develop the Nairobi City County Hazard and Vulnerability Atlas, establish stockpiles of food and non-food items so that when we need to rush, there's a flood, something has happened. You know, the other day I was watching, it's flooding, I think in some parts of India and others, and I said, you know, Kenya, we've never gotten this kind of flooding. We complain, but we've never gotten this kind of flooding. And if that happened, I don't know who would survive in this city. Forget the country, just this city. Develop the Nairobi City, establish secure dedicated hotlines for monitoring possible disaster occurrences, and that's what I'm saying. If we all have hotlines and we know where to call, then it becomes very easy. So economic benefits, vulnerability analysis shows that the urban poor have higher risk of hazard exposure and are vulnerable to such as floods, fire outbreaks, and disease outbreaks. Proactive DRM will mitigate potential death, destruction, among other economic losses. On e-governance, compliance, and enforcement, build a functional zero downtime e-service system to ensure easy access and quick processing of requests of citizens and businesses. I don't need to know where County Hall is. I need to be able to click in a button and get all the services, know what I need to pay, how I need to pay it, you know, online. M-Pesa changed our world, so I don't need to be able to have cash to go anywhere. but I need to be able, with a click of button, be able to get to know where all the county services are. Establish an efficient and effective e-permitting system for development approval. So again, the same thing in terms of now it's easy. I can load all my documents online, but let's make it more efficient and running so that I don't have to know who works in the county for anything to be processed, for anything to move. And we know the timing. Today if I lodge in my passport, I know it's 2 weeks. I need to know if I do the same in terms of e-permitting. I know if I lodge any documents, I know I'm given 2 weeks, and in those 2 weeks, if I click in, I can see it's being processed. I'll see if there's a problem. I'll see if I need to go in. I need to see the whole process as it's working, and so that we remove all these cartels and middlemen that we have. Implement the CAPS, capacity assessment and rationalization of public service, to address the redundancy, ghost workers. I think we keep still hearing about ghost workers and capacity issues in the county. We really look at, we are moving into the third county government. I think so these are some of the things that we need to remove. Reform the city inspectorate department through purchase of uniforms, workforce, rationalization, and retooling them to attain mandatory qualifications. And so they know their work. They are not there to police and work with rungus. They are there just to get them, the public to know where do they need to go, to direct them to the right places, to show them when they do the wrong thing, so that we stop fearing them and always think, do I have 500 shillings, do I have 100 shillings, as I see them coming, so that we start removing all that. Establish alternative modern markets for traders and hawkers to move on. Again, we talked about order. I don't know how many are disturbed in this room and those online, that every day now, every street you see, and every new road you see, immediately it's done, the traders come. These people are business people. They want to do business. Can we give them, just the way we have offices and safe places to work, can we give them places to trade and hawk their produce? And because they're customers, we buy from them. We want them to be able to have, when they have a roof over their head, they'll be able to have social services, the social amenities for them. At times I wonder, where do they go to the bathroom during the day? As you see them trading, it's really, really hard. But that's a health menace for all of us. We may think we're in our cars driving, but it's affecting all of us. The whole environment, climate change is affecting all of us. So if we gave them, and we divided the county into different regions, if you're in the western region, this is where the markets are. And they're integrated. They have the food markets, they have the car washes. Again, look at every bus stop now has become a car wash. We will not develop as a county that way, So the markets should be able to have the stalls, the car washes, and everything integrated. What we do to these people, first we make them safe, the security issues, we give them a healthy environment, we help them also in terms of value chains, because if they need to be able to export, we are able to build them. If we need to integrate them with bigger businesses, we're able to do that. But for all of us, we're able to live in safer neighborhoods. We are also able to buy food and other products that are safe and healthy, and so we're not having the issues of our health. But also the order. If you're going to attract business, both local and foreign, there has to be order. We all talk about Kigali because of order. Kigali doesn't have too much, but just that order attracts every business. If businesses could fit in Kigali, trust me, they would move. It's just that Kigali is so small that businesses wonder, okay, I can go there, then what happens? But let's bring those businesses here. Institute strict regulations on subletting and operations of city food markets and all that. Establish a digitized grievance redress mechanism to ensure that we are handling complaints and communication with the citizens. So as I finish, I'll just mention one thing on competitiveness and jobs. The county governments could really support employment and opportunities by deepening access to internet, all parks, all schools, and every different areas, and build capacity of SMEs to participate directly in county government projects through value chains and large enterprises. I'd give a story on that one, but I won't do that. So in ending my conversation today, I think we've given a clear picture of what this city can become if we work together and in partners. And so with that, and we will circulate this document that has a lot more, but basically that's the message of this morning. Would like to hear from you, Honorable Sakaja. That's our view of the city. Those are our asks and our recommendations, and would like to work with the next governor of the city of Nairobi. would like to hear what your aspirations of this city are, and if they match ours, and how we can have a meeting point. Karibu.
Thank you very much. How many would vote for Carol to be the governor of Nairobi? Based on what she has said. In fact, to save time, I should just say I agree. And that's what we do. But anyway, since I'm the one on the ballot, I think I should take this opportunity, first of all, to thank Kepsa for bringing us together. I think the space that Kepsa has been able to take over the last few years in public-private dialogue forums, your engagement with Parliament, and all these other institutions is really a good example for Kenyans, that you've taken seriously your civic duty to engage, your civic duty to participate. Last year, actually in 2020 January, we had the first round table of the Nairobi Senator with Kepsa, and I think it was very successful. We have a matrix of the things we discussed and the interventions so needed. So congratulations, Kepsa, and all your partners. Good morning, everyone. I don't know how you did the invite within Kepsa, because in every table I can see my friends. So I don't know if you just said, friends of Sakaja, come for this meeting, or that I generally have a lot of friends within these circles. It's good to see all of you this morning. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being part of this discussion. In 48 days and 19 hours, we are going to make a decision about our city and about our country. It's an important decision that we have to make. I think the realization that our destiny is in our hands and that we can actually make a change really should drive us even to engage and participate. And I was just sharing earlier with the team as we were in the holding room, that Kepsa, CAM, you should engage with all the political parties. Make sure you have part of what you want in each party's manifesto. Being nonpartisan, we have a bottom-up economic forum after this. Send someone there, the Kenya Kwanza team, send someone to Azimio, so that you are on the table. And I keep saying, if you're not on the table, you'll be on the menu. So you have to choose whether you want to be on the table or on the menu. For us, and I'm glad you invited our team, I'm here with my running mate, Njoroge Mushiri, who, as Carol said, is part, or rather has come from one of the member organizations from ABSA. He's been in the corporate sector for many years. I'm very lucky and honored to have him as my running mate, and we form a team that wants to take Nairobi to the next level. Carol said that Nairobi is one of the cities where we say it used to be like this, now it is not. And the rest of the world, they say, we didn't have this, now we do. And I keep telling people there are two ways to look at Nairobi. In terms of what it has always been, in terms of what's not working, or in terms of what it must be. It's very easy to be skeptical. It's very easy to have doubts, but we choose to remain unapologetically optimistic without being recklessly naive about what Nairobi can and must be. And I want to summarize that, even as I go through the areas that Carol has listed, quite briefly because of time. We want a city of order and dignity. If we provide order and dignity to all, in all aspects, then we shall create a city of hope and opportunity for everybody. Everything revolves around order and dignity, and I will explain. Order is all of us knowing what needs to be done, having the rules clear, the information available, and it being followed by everybody. So whether it comes to traffic, whether it is about solid waste management, whether it is about every aspect we've spoken about, we must have a city of order. Whether it is the traders coming to different parts of new roads coming up, everybody thinks they can set up their place, matatus doing whatever they want. We cannot have that in a 21st century global hub or global capital, we must have order. And we must provide our citizens with dignity wherever they are. As we were discussing earlier, it is sad that the people of Nairobi have accepted that in some areas you'll have to jump over sewers to get to your house, that there are mounds of garbage all over. Of course, some cleanup has been done where people like us can see. But if you go just downtown, go beyond Moi Avenue, go to Kariobangi, go to the east of the city, really there's a lack of dignity because of the built environment and how people are living. The fact that many people have to share one room with their children and separate it to the curtain, that is not dignity. That you have to go share a bathroom outside, that is not dignity. You know what the bulk of Nairobians go through? That even when they come to these spaces, because it affects your esteem, it affects your attitude, it affects how you look at yourself. Studies have been done in many places. In New York, one of these lower income areas, all they did was to paint the places, make it look good. Crime went down by 47% just because of the built environment and because that affects how people see themselves. So we want a city of order and dignity, and for us, we're very clear that we want a pro-business capital. It must be pro-business, pro-enterprise. That everything we're doing is to create opportunities. Everything we're doing, once we have that order and we're thinking of dignity, we reorient. Yeah, I was just having a discussion earlier where they're like, these fines that we're being given, how do we pay these fines? When you think of Kanjo, and Carol said that enforcement, it shouldn't be that every time you see a county officer, it is to get a fine from you or that you've done something wrong. But when they come to you, it should be like, okay, how do we help you with your business? How do we make your business better? How do we sort out, the environment in which you're operating? Not just fines, and I'll go into those details. So let me just start then with the first area that you've spoken about, because you've looked at different areas, whether it is transport, whether it is water, integrated urban land use, solid waste management. All of this must be achieved, and I'm very fortunate that I've served as senator. I have studied the first government of Nairobi, of Governor Kidero. His accomplishments and shortcomings. You know, Shakespeare says, truly wise is he who learns from another's mishap. And it is not prudent to say, everybody failed and I'm the magician who's coming to sort out Nairobi. No. There is what they did right. Remember, they were starting devolution. It had not been there. Some of the structures, some of the, starting a public service board, having staff seconded to you from the national government, inheriting some who are at the city council, then employing more. So there's the wins and the losses from the first government, the second administration of Mike Sonko, what they did well, what they didn't do well, the NMS, and I think by all of that, then we present what we think the third iteration of devolution for Nairobi must portend. The first thing we must do to achieve all these things is to structure Nairobi properly. Structuring Nairobi properly is the beginning of creating order. Structuring it properly means this. The person in charge of roads in Kayole doesn't need to sort out roads in Upper Hill. The person dealing with garbage in Westlands should have nothing to do with garbage in South Sea. We must divide Nairobi structurally into 5 boroughs. We're going to have Nairobi North, East, West, South, and Central. The Urban Areas and Cities Act allows us to have city managers who then manage those areas. Because today, when you call the person in charge of, for instance, garbage and tell them, hey, I have seen a heap of garbage at Upper Hill when I was coming for this meeting. They say, I'm so sorry, sir. There's a crisis in Roysambu that I'm sorting out. If you tell him the same, they'll be like, oh, sorry, there's this in South Sea. No. We're going to have every service center, every interaction by the public, every need to serve the people stepped down into those boroughs, and we know who is accountable for that area. So if it is Westlands or Nairobi West Borough, whether it is your licenses, whether it is your permits, whether it is your water issues, you have nothing to do with City Hall. Get your stuff sorted out there. We'll have the services delivered there. And that city manager or assistant city manager then reports to the chief city manager. We must restructure it. Nairobi is too, I don't want to say formless, but too intense for you to imagine that at the top, you'll be able to sort it out. So to step down devolution one level in Nairobi by having the assistant city managers, and the chief city manager will be the deputy governor, Mr. Njoroge Mushiri, who these 5 are going to be reporting to. So that is the structure we want to operate as. It'll give us accountability. So once we sit and say, okay, what does Nairobi South need? And we sit with all of those sub-county administrators and the structure, and they tell us, this is what we need to clean it, okay. This is what we need for roads, okay. This is what we need for water, etc. We agree. This is the budget. We provide it, no excuses. No excuses after that. If you're not delivering that, you go home. Because we want to see our citizens as customers. And we must provide services to our customers. So there'll be no excuses from there moving forward. Number 2, and these are just some of the cross-cutting issues, multiple licenses. If you go to businesses, and I'm sure all of your businesses, once we enter, you open the door, there's a big frame with so many licenses. So you water, health, there's a business permit, fire, where you're paying 4,500 shillings to be given a certificate, as if that can stop a fire. That will end. MCSK, PRISC, all of that, we are going to put it down into one license. Let the county pay all of those other agencies. But you have one license that you pay that has a QR code, and there's one inspector for that area. It cannot be that today a business, they see somebody coming, oh, I'm from city council, I'm from health. You have this problem, your dustbin is not plastic. Tomorrow, someone comes because of fire. In the afternoon, somebody else comes for another reason. That will have to end. Such that in this certain area or this borough, once you step down to your street, you know the inspectorate officer is Mr. Kamau or Mr. Onyango, who comes and checks, and it is digitized. So that we don't have, because it's become an avenue for rent seeking. I speak to a lot of our entrepreneurs when I go around the city. And the reason why, in fact, revenue has gone down in Nairobi is because of that harassment and the policing nature of collection of revenue. That you have KRA moving around with GSU to businesses harassing people. So when they show up, I was talking to a guy who was liquor, wines and spirits in Buruburu. And he says, once we see the first guy who comes, on our WhatsApp group, we inform the rest. And so, you deal with me, but everybody else closes their business. Is that good for business? No, it is not. So there's going to be one license, and that's something you can hold me to account, and we're going to do it by using technology. We must leverage technology. So all the services offered in City Hall should be offered online and at every borough. You do not have to come to City Hall unless you want to come say hi to me. If it is for something else service, go to your borough, you will get it over there, and that becomes your service center. And we'll bring in together the different departments that report to the Assistant City Manager. That will come through legislation. The Urban Areas and Cities Act already provides us an opportunity for doing that. So of course there must be a balance, because many of these licenses are avenues for revenue. I'm not saying we will reduce the avenues for revenue, but you don't have to have different departments and different people harassing you, even at the national level, because some of them are statutory. We have to agree that once this kind of business needs this kind of permits, once they pay everything is when I issue them with a single unified business permit that is on technology. We must leverage technology. How we deal with corruption in this city is by making sure we've reduced as much as possible human interaction with cash. You must reduce human interaction with cash. And I'm glad, again, my running mate, my deputy, has been chief operating officer. He's a systems person, not system, that other one that I'm currently dealing with, not system, but systems, yeah? Because we must use technology. This is a 21st century global capital. So let us go first to transport then. I agree, again, with Carol. We cannot have a situation where the only public thing about public transport in Nairobi is the passengers. We don't have a public service transport system in Nairobi. It is private. We must, there's no two ways of doing it. In fact, leave alone the bus rapid transport on its own, because that won't sort it out. More roads won't sort out our traffic problem. It won't. If you study New York and read a book by Robert Caro. Robert Caro was the biographer of Lyndon Johnson, but he has a book about Robert Moses, who for a long time was involved within New York. The book is called The Power Broker. He talks about how this guy was just hell-bent on building roads. The more roads you do, the more cars people buy, the more traffic you have. Remember Thika Road? We said that is going to be the solution, isn't it? For traffic. Thika Road was built, everybody moved. Today, you don't want to be there at 7:30 a.m. I'm sure many who are late came by Thika Road. What we require is train, mass transit. Today we have, if you look at our roads, every vehicle has 1 or 2 people. Just 1 or 2 people coming. Yeah? When I came here, there was a long line, and of course I didn't overlap. I stayed in my place. I don't have sirens. But I saw vehicles, 1, 2 people. You can't sort it out. Now Nairobi has a plan. There's an integrated transit plan that is comprehensive, coordinated. It is a holistic plan that has heavy rail, not just the light rail. There's heavy rail on the heavy nodes. So there's the Thika Road line to coming this way into the city. That's our heaviest trunk. And there is one coming down. That's why initially we were saying the space they've used for the expressway, ideally, that should have been a heavy rail train, because that one also will start having traffic as well. But that has been done. This plan cost 400 million shillings, was done by Nairobi Council together with the Japanese. It is there. There are many entities ready and available to come and partner with us in providing serious mass transit with what we call the Nairobi Loop Line. That is what we're going to do. We must. There's no two ways about it. We must do it. I was recently in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, and I met a guy who's doing the Riyadh metro, the metro system. His name is George Odongo. He's the same guy who did Dubai with his team. George Odongo, he's a Kenyan. The other day I was in London, and so Manoa invited me to have dinner with the guy at Imperial College. The head of the civil engineering department, who has sorted out London Transit and Beijing Transit, is Professor Washington Ochieng. Guys, there's no two ways about it. Now people ask me, so what are you going to do with matatus? Matatus, there's space for everyone. Because the trade is not going to get you home. There's going to be parking silos. There's going to be, the last mile taking you to your houses. They can also participate. They're in circles. They can invest in owning some of these locomotives. You can retain some of them, but there must be space. There's no two way about it. So you need also to have a governor with the political resilience to make these tough choices. They will not be popular. They are not going to be popular choices. But we must make that choice. Because when you look at Nairobi, it's very easy to provide interventions that just help you get by today and tomorrow. But we must have a 10, 20, 30-year vision of the city and bring it back to what we must do now in the next 5 years and the next 10 years. So of course, there needs to be a unified entity that sorts out transport. Some roads are the national government, some are the county government. You have traffic police second-guessing traffic lights. Because the policeman, where he stands, all he can see is this, where he is. And his intervention here creates a problem down the road. So we must leverage on technology and sort that out. That is the future of Nairobi. So that transport and look at it in terms of mobility. Someone was saying, there's so many people walking, let's build more paths for them to walk. I told him that's a very elitist argument. These guys are not walking because they like walking. It is like saying, give them cake. There's no bread, give them. They're not walking for health. They want to be home faster and they want to go to their offices faster, but they cannot afford the public transport. It trains, fares go up by 300%. So of course, we have to build paths for people to walk, but let us create affordable, reliable, predictable mass transit. So that I know if I'm in Ngong, there's a train from Karen and I'll go to South Sea by 7:20, I'm there, it's on time. There are many entities ready to partner with us to do that, and we can do it off balance sheet as Nairobi City County. So we hope we also get a national government that we can partner with to do some of these things. Let me move quickly. And I'm sure we might have we'll have a Q&A discussion to discuss that. Water, let me go to water. Now, I have had the proposals and the interventions, storm, grey and black water, integrated systems, sewerage systems. But the first thing you must do when you're talking about water in Nairobi is understand the problem of water. The problem of water in Nairobi is 2 or 3 things. Number one, the quantity that we get. Nairobi has 4 water sources. The first water source was developed in 1907. That is Kikuyu Springs, just after the campus. Kikuyu Springs is a natural, water source. It provides for 1% of our water. After that, in 1937, we had now the Ruiru Dam. That one provides around 4% of our water consumption in Nairobi. Then the bigger project came in Jambini, which is called Sasumwa Dam. Sasumwa provides 11% of our water needs. Then later is when now we developed Ndakaine. Ndakaine, or Thika Dam, gives us 84% of our water. Since 1997, we have not created another water source. No other water source has been developed yet to completion. So every day, the amount of water we get in Nairobi is 525.6 million liters. But the requirement is 850 million liters a day for Nairobi. So you can see the shortfall, first of all, in terms of quantity. Fortunately, there is what we call the Northern Collector program, the Northern Collector Tunnel, that is ongoing. The tunnel is 94% complete. The piping is at 30%. That will provide for us, and that is from Murang'a as well, around Maragua side, bringing water. That will provide for us another 140 million liters. And it will end in 2032, at the end of 2023. Sometimes I have dyslexia. 2023, next year. Next December, at the end of next December, we'll have another 140 million liters of water additional. So that means we'll still have some shortfall, but we'll have satisfied 85% of our water demand, isn't it? So if anybody tells you they'll sort out water in the first 2 months, they're lying. They're lying to you. The quantity problem will be sorted out progressively. After Northern Collector 1, which now will reduce, right now we have 65%, we're only able to have 65%, we'll move to 85%. Northern Collector 2 will end in 2028, and that then will be able to fulfill it. But remember, that demand of 850 million liters grows every year. Yeah? So there's also the growth in demand. So that's the first aspect, the quantity of water, where the water comes in, the reservoirs, and we can go into those details at a later date when we have time. Now, once you have received the water, there's a problem of distribution of this water supply. The distribution of water supply, we have many areas in Nairobi that have no piping, where we have not created. There's actually no piping. If you go to Karen, it's dams and boreholes. If you go to Ngando, if you look at some areas of Kasarani, whether it is Njiru, whether it is Ruai. So we actually need to sort out the infrastructure issue. And that is something Nairobi Water, which is owned by the county government, is working on and needs to be supported more to work on. But there's the third problem that Carol mentions is the corruption and the cartels. So you have people, and it's very, I don't know how to say archaic or very primitive. So you have people who know where those taps are, the actual levers. And this person maybe worked in Nairobi Water years ago, or worked in which entity, wamenda, wamefunga, kuna mabati, and they close it. And they feel the water bowsers there. That is why we have 43% of our water in Nairobi is non-revenue water. How do you sort that out? Technology. With SCADA technology, I will be able to monitor from my phone as your governor. Maji imekatwa wapi? And immediately sort that out. And of course, those people must be charged, because that is actually a crime against the people. In fact, it's a national security issue. So we're using SCADA technology, where you can actually monitor on an app. Those assistant city managers reporting to Njoroge Mushiri can be able to see, and we sort it out. So we need to sort out the quantity, and we can be able then to have water. Imagine more than 80%, and I think maybe you guys, I can tell a good percentage, I think all of us showered this morning. Imagine, more than 80% of Nairobians have never had a shower from the top. You know, like shower. They bathe bottom up from a door or a bucket. Because I'm telling you, okay, that's not really what bottom up is about, but that is how it is. And it's communal showers. Is that dignity, really? That is not dignified. So we must be able to deal with the infrastructure. By the end of next year, we'll have an improvement, and we'll make sure that every household has a tap to every house. Seeing water bowsers labeled in a mess is not the solution to our water problem. Water must come into everybody's household, and it can be done. This is what has been done before, the social connections policy with the World Bank, etc., especially in the low-income areas. We've studied it. We're going to implement. Let me move to the next thing. As you can see, we have a lot to talk about. Solid waste management, of course. We must be able to make sure that we clean our city. Our city is dirty. Our city is extremely dirty. There are many places with huge heaps of garbage. What we see in town, for people like you to say, oh, these guys are working. They've cleaned the cap on the outside. But people are dodging mounds of garbage. The other day I was addressing a rally in Molem, next to a huge heap. Huge. And they said to Tole hii. So I called one of the people dealing with it and tell, please, simtoe tu. And the guy's answer was like, okay, tutatoa. And the next day it was removed. Meaning they had the ability to remove it, but there's no reason for them to do it. So of course our structure of governance with the boroughs and city managers and accountability will make sure that once we've given Joroge Mushiri and his city managers what they require, my work is to drive around. And I'll drive around with Karo. Ukiona takataka, we know who's in charge of this area. Why is there garbage? Go home. There must be that level of accountability. We must reduce the commercial aspect of garbage business. It's huge business. People are being paid hundreds of millions monthly to deliver garbage to the Dandora dump site. Where they get it from, you don't care. So they come with their truck, it is weighed, coming in and going out. What kind of accountability is that? Some of those trucks are filled with water. They add water to increase the weight. When they're not paid, they dump it in somebody else's. We must redo that structure. Ideally, it should be what we're talking about, Camero. I remember when I was growing up, every Tuesday and I think Monday, and Friday, the truck would come. There were bins in our estates, the big bins that would collect that garbage. It is a public service. What you used to pay for water included your garbage. But today, Nairobians are paying for their own garbage. You're paying for your own water. You're paying for your own security. What is the county government for? So we must rework that model of garbage collection. It cannot be that commercial. I must know this is your zone. Under this barrow, it must be clean. Paying you based on what you deliver to the dump site. You might be bringing garbage from Kiambu or from elsewhere. You have not cleaned. Our challenge is not filling the Dandora dump site. It is cleaning Nairobi. And that is where the focus needs to be. And we promise you a clean city. So it needs more of a long-term, medium to long-term thinking. We can't tell people, oh, we'll have a monthly cleanup. No. The monthly cleanup that is done, that Kagame does, is not actually cleaning the city. The city is being cleaned by the Kigali officials. This one is just to show people our responsibility as well as citizens. Because we will do our part. I will make sure there are bins. But now you, as a Nairobian, as a citizen of Nairobi, must be able to put your trash in the bin. So that monthly cleanup is just giving us our responsibility. Wajibu wangu. This is what my part is. But as governor, the buck stops with me to make sure your city is clean. Recently, I was in Korogosho with Masai Ujiri, who is Toronto Raptors president. And we had built a basketball court. He had built, not me. I just dandiaed it for politics, just to get bonga points. But I support that program and the kids. And later on, over dinner, he was dismayed. He said, look, we've built this beautiful basketball court, but these kids are going to get respiratory illnesses because of what they're inhaling. In Kenyatta, there's an entire wing for Dandora people because of respiratory illnesses. That dump site cannot stay as it is. We must do waste to energy. People have been approached to do it. The problem has been previous regimes have wanted a cut. before it is done. And finally, we have gotten goodwill. I was in Dandora the other day at a APCA with the MP and MCAs. For the first time, they have said they want that thing sorted out. That has always been the problem. So those are the things you do immediately. You get in when the goodwill still exists. We can light up our city based on the energy coming from that dam site. But what we will start is a garbage factory, probably in another landfill, because you must sort out the garbage first before now knowing the plastics go here, the organic goes here. This produces energy. This can be recycled. So as we do that, we sort out Dandora. And it's a political thing. You must be able to have the public there trust you that they will be part of that process. And the people of Dandora can as well have shares in that energy production company. Otherwise, you will not get in there. Even cops are afraid of getting into some of that dam site. I'm sure some of you understand what I'm talking about, including some of the guns from criminal gangs are hidden there. So solid waste is something that we must deal with. Let me go quickly. We have a bottom-up economic forum, which I'm inviting all of you. We can go together after this, so that you can also input your thinking into the manifesto for the president and also for Nairobi. Let me finally just talk on health. And I have so much to talk about. I think you can see the passion. Healthcare in Nairobi is a problem. We must sort it out. I love these interventions, but we want to focus on 4 things. The first thing is the HR aspect of healthcare. I have sat with the nurses and doctors and the personnel in Nairobi. They're not motivated. They're not provided for. They're stuck in the same job groups for the longest time. If you don't sort them out, there's no way you'll sort out our healthcare. It can't be that somebody has to do his private practice and show up once in a while. So we must first sort them out. And it's simple things, including just how they are treated. They have nowhere to get their refreshments. There's no canteen in Pumwani. Sort out the HR issues. Make sure that they are comfortable. Of course, not exorbitant salaries. In fact, the nurses and clinical officers are really passionate about it because they have sworn an oath to serve people. But when we don't give them the tools they require to serve these people, even they feel bad. Number 2, decentralize. Decentralize the health management. Today, if you want an ambulance from anywhere, you must get it from one central place. There's a story of, was it Mama Mwinde, who had to see her child dying because the ambulance right where she could see at Mama Lucy needed 3 levels of approvals from Lady Northy, so she's going to who was not around. The ambulance is there, you can see it, the child is here, they need to be taken to Kenyatta. So that decision must be made at that level. So this decentralized way of looking at it is going to actually help us in healthcare. So I've spoken about healthcare, financing. Number 2, our supplies. Farm and non-farm supplies is a big problem. It's also cartel-like. You don't find a private hospital with excess Panadol or a lack of a certain drug. It can't be a coincidence that you go to a medical facility and you're told, yeah, hatuna, lakini ukienda hapo nje utapata. And you find there's a linkage between that pharmacy and somebody working in that hospital. That must be sorted out using technology. So I'm glad you've spoken about health information management system, where we can be able to track with a chip. We're going to give you a card. Because if the facilities are ours, the doctors are ours, the nurses are ours, we can actually ring fence, and we want to ring fence a certain amount of the health budget to only stay in the health budget. So with that card, we can be able to tell you went to Mutuini dispensary, these are your issues, sort of the referral system. I'm glad NMS has built facilities, but those facilities are doing nothing. You can't have 24 hospitals. A hospital is not a building. It is the service you get in there. So we must sort out the kind of service that is there, have the HR there, have the equipment there, and then say that we're serving Nairobians. So I know there is Baba Care that is being proposed by Azimio, as we're proposing Sakaja Care in Nairobi, where Nairobians will have that card that has your information, and we can actually complement what NHIF is doing. Again, when we have time, a longer period, we can be able to go into the details of that, and we'll invite you for the launch of our manifesto. So, safety and security, of course, that is extremely important. We must collaborate. Of course, it's a national function, but the county government must work closely with the national government. Our biggest threat, our biggest cause of insecurity is not lack of CCTV or lack of lights. It is millions of disengaged, disempowered young people who do not have hope and who are not engaged. We must partner with you, the private sector. First of all, for us to create a conducive environment to do business, Nairobi must be seen as a business-oriented, pro-business capital, where you set up enterprise, we support those young people, and get them jobs. That is the way we'll sort out insecurity. People can get desperate to the level, even under that light and CCTV, they will steal. If I have to feed my child, if that person has to feed their family, they're going to do it despite the number of cameras, even a camera in their face, they will do it. But let us provide for them hope and opportunities and sort that out. So part of it is that in every ward, we're going to provide 50 million shillings in a fund. 50 million shillings for business stimulus. And it's not just business, because you don't solve problems by throwing money at people. But together with yourselves, Kepsa, we're going to have business mentors in those wards, people who run a successful business to incubate other businesses that have the ability to rapidly scale and employ many people. And that is why in the Senate, I sponsored the startup bill. And thank you, Waidera, we did a lot of that work. Unfortunately, National Assembly has gone on recess. We passed it in the Senate. But with or without the law, I'll implement it as your governor in Nairobi, that we can de-risk the investment in these startups. There's no county or national government that can put enough money to a startup. No. But once we de-risk investors and you know whether your commitment is 30% of what you've put in, you can get back in case that business doesn't work, it's going to go a long way. And we're going to have those hacker spaces. We want innovation. This is an innovative city. We're going to provide the spaces for our young people to come and innovate to provide solutions. So, ladies and gentlemen, which role can Kepsa and private sector players play? As I've said, in our administration, not mine, I won't be saying in my government, in our administration together, you must be at the center of it. We must partner in all stages. I know the private sector would be willing if we say, look guys, please, can you take over Buruburu? You help us with Kayole. We want to do this with the young people, to build, to plant trees, to clean the place. You can brand as much as you want, reduce your marketing budget, put it in the billboards there, I'll give you incentives. Isn't that a way we can partner with private sector? There are many areas that we can work together. I know people who've tried to sort out their streets. One of them was Wood Avenue. And the owners of the buildings there said, guys, can we do the paving and sort out the lights? They went to the county government said, no, that's our work. But the county government did not do it. So, we have to change how we see the city. We must own it. So we'll partner in that kind of way. You will have a seat at the table together with us. We'll have this is not the last interaction. It is now 48 days to the election. I want to commit to meet you again in September after the swearing in, so that we can also now say, these are the these are the interventions we want and this is what we want to do. Number two, the area resident associations are going to play a key part in budget making. When you choose the chairman of your chama or your estate group or the treasurer, your levels of accountability are so high. When you say, oh, it is Baba Onyango who's going to be the treasurer, you say, no. That one will run away with our money. Let's have, Patel or Baba Kamau, because you own that money. But when it comes to your 40 billion budget, Nairobians always say, okay, that's another government. We must have you owning it. So every resident area association within the city that is recognized, and we have these sessions with Kara, are going to play a part with a certain amount of budget that we say, whether it is 20 million shillings a year, Buruburu guys, tell us what you want for that 20 million, hold, accountability on it, determine the project, whether it's a 1-year project of 20 or a 5-year project of 100, so that you participate, because you must build ownership of Nairobi. When you ask Nairobians, where do you stay? Carol will say, oh, I stay in Kileleshwa, or I live in Karen. Very few say, I am from Jericho. We see Nairobi as a transitory place. We must say, I am Nairobi. And this is what our city is about. And I am part of that story. Until we own it, we will not go, we will not be able to transform it. So in a nutshell, and I'm sorry I'm racing because of time, we want to create a city of order and dignity. Let the rules be known. When you land in Nairobi as an entrepreneur, everything you require to start and move your business must be on your phone, that you can tell, and that we stick to our part of the bargain, you stick to your part of the bargain. A city of order and dignity, hope and opportunities for us all. Let's make Nairobi work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are we inspired? We are, right? So this is how we will clap, because we've seen the need of the public-private partnership. We've heard that he's willing to work with the private sector. Our CEO has presented the needs of the private sector, and we've been told there'll be the city of hope and opportunities. That is what Nairobi will be about. We've been told, let's make Nairobi work. So together, I know we will all decide on the 9th of August. To this, let us do this kidogo to celebrate the two of them. We really appreciate it, and then we will clap once. We are ready? Ready, let's go. Thank you very much. Because of time, allow me, we will request our director, Mr. Mushai, to please lead the plenary session, some questions, and then we will wrap up. Asante. Karibu Mushai.
Quickly. So I'll start here. Yep. A 2-minute question. One.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable Sakaja, my name is Ngache Muhoya. Part of the UNDP Youth Founding Board and a member of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance Youth Board. I have 2 questions. 1.5. The first one is basically your youth engagement matrix for young people. What is your plan for engaging young people in terms of public participation? And number 2, in terms of youth innovation centers, we've seen successes in the Isiolo Youth Innovation Hub. How can we replicate and even improve that in Nairobi and have the hope that young people need to solve the security issues so that we can be able to innovate and create businesses that thrive? Thank you.
We'll have gender equity.
Thank you very much. My name is Florence Sevo from the SDGs Kenya Forum. Thank you, Honorable Sakaja. And so my questions, okay, I'll just try and combine them, is the issues of schools. I'd want to hear maybe just how to engage the children in school. I know that's something that we've really missed out in the few years. And also greening Nairobi, issues of climate action and change. And then lastly, maybe just the monitoring. You've spoken about great initiatives, and for me, I've always wondered, how then do we keep track once you come into power, for example? How do we monitor some of these very good aspirations? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sakaja. My name is David Mbehi, and I have a quick question. You almost have my vote, but before I vote for you, answer this. So Nairobi has a budget of about 30 billion, right? Out of this, 20 billion goes towards recurrent expenditures and administration costs. 10 billion goes towards development projects, some of which have already been launched by previous regimes. You mentioned you're gonna give each ward 50 million shillings. We have 85 wards, that's 4.25 billion shillings. You minus that from 9B, we have 4B. How will you fund your manifesto? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Suba Churchill. I want to ask what it is you are going to do differently from your predecessors to sort out the border menace. And I say this because politicians have a weakness of not being firm, you know. And that is what made the previous governors that we have now exported to other counties after failing in Nairobi. What is it you are going to do differently with the border menace?
Okay, last one, please.
Good morning. Wish you the best, Mr. Sakaja. We call him Sakaja, and he knows why I say he's called Sakaja. Mine is just, I'm called Jimmy Kiberu. Mine are just 3 small things that you've left out. You said you want to make Nairobi work again. My view is let it be great again, because Nairobi is a great city in East Africa. And I don't get tired saying that one. But the 3 things that I think you've missed out, and you need to add to your agenda.
A question, please.
Yeah, no, it's a suggestion.
Yes.
Yeah, one of them I think to me is making Nairobi a tourism city. Whenever we travel to places like London, New York, you have these city buses. We don't see any in Nairobi. The marathon is great. Add the Nairobi
urban tourism, and also preserve the antiquities. And lastly, it's a very big embarrassment to see areas like Riverside being decimated, bring down houses and high rises. Let's get this area zoned and prevent this urban mess that's going to turn Nairobi into what we don't want it to be.
Thank you.
I think that's all.
Okay.
And also clean Nairobi River.
Yes.
I don't think I need to go up there. Thank you so much for your questions, and I appreciate everything that has been asked, starting from Gatia. Youth interventions and integration. I've been a champion of young people. I've brought legislation, 30% procurement opportunities for young people, because I believe unless you economically empower them first, every other engagement, doesn't mean anything. And that's why young people are being involved in violence, because they have nothing in their pockets. So we must first look at it economically and political engagement for them, that their voice is heard. How do we do it? I am no longer youth. I was a youth. So I need people like you within the government. Because I cannot say that I'll understand what you guys think of. So Ngatia, that's a job proposal. Come on board. Let's work together so that you actually are in there. We can't plan for the youth. Let the youth be there, right? Whether it is CECs, whether it is chief officers, let's have young people as well within our government. We must sort them out economically first. We must give them information. We need youth-friendly health centers. We need to be able to have them feeling that they own the processes and the city, and they're engaged. And that can only be done by young people within our administration. So for many of you, I'm young, but I promise you, Suba, to these guys, I am old and archaic. I can't understand 25-year-olds and 24-year-olds the way I thought I would, So we need you guys on board. All this legislation I've done over the last 10 years. In fact, I've been rated the best performing senator thrice in a row because of different laws I've brought in. I feel it's now time to implement those laws, and I can only implement them as governor. So I need you guys right within the government, and we'll be reaching out. I've talked about the hacker spaces. All these young guys who sit at the iHub and NILAB and whatnot, let them come. Let's have competitions. Give us an innovation for water. Give us an innovation for traffic management, and we take it on board, and you'll find amazing things coming out of our young people. I spoke at the Institute for the Future in San Francisco, and they were asking me, why is it that we're seeing so much innovation coming from Nairobi? I told them, right now, the world is a global village. We all have the same tools. We have, whether you're coding on this platform or this app, we all have it, but our needs are different. You might be innovating for fashion, as we are connecting communities, we are doing cash transfer, and in the same way, we could not tell what 10 years ago where we would be in terms of technology. We can't tell 10 years from now. Recently we had something at Konza where I took kids from Dandora, a young boy, 6 years old, who met a computer for the first time, won the coding competition, winning 14, 15-year-olds, and he saw a computer for the first time during that camp. So there's a lot that you can give our young people with technology. Florence has asked about schools. I'm very passionate about schools. There's ECD that Nairobi is supposed to provide, but we've said we must do an intervention with our primary schools. And Article 187 of the Constitution allows us to now transfer the function. Nairobi transferred functions to the national government. I'm taking them all back and asking the national government for some functions. One of them I'll explain. I went to a school in Gatina in Dagoretti North. I was donating desks in 2020. After COVID, there had been vandalism. So as you donate the desks, and the children get excited, and they're like, oh, super senator, and you ask them, what would you like? Normally they'd say, we want sweets, or we want balls to play, or if they're ambitious, they say, we want a school bus. These kids say they want lunch. Yeah? They want lunch. As a parent, you know what it means when a child actually tells a stranger that they want food. There's a dire situation in our city. We are going to have a school feeding program, partnering with the private sector. So there's a group called Food for Education. Already we're doing 13 schools in Dagoretti South, where the CDF builds a kitchen. The food is heavily subsidized, 650 grams, supposed to be 25 shillings, it's now at 15 shillings. The parents load that every day. And these kids, the performance has gone up, the attendance has gone up. I mean, we can't have more children out of school as a percentage in Nairobi than in Turkana, and say we're in the capital city. And these kids take the 650 grams of food they eat and they carry some home. That is what many families are going through in Nairobi. So all the 209 public schools partnering with the private sector, we're going to build those kitchens, we're going to give our kids food, and I'm sure it will percolate to other kind of schools. So for us, it's just a subsidy. We're not funding the entire program. Parents are going to chip in, whether it is 10 shillings from the 15 or 5 shillings, but they must also chip in. Beyond that, of course, I sponsored the National Employment Authority bill, which created the authority, and part of what I was saying is that we don't have proper career guidance in our schools. And many of the courses even being taught at our universities are just postponing the unemployment of our young people. We must start career guidance very early, give them mentors, let them know, and partner with the private sector to say, these are the skills we require in the next 5 years. Sit with CAM, and say, these are the jobs that we need, teach them this. We have many units teaching courses where no one is being employed. You don't need 1,000 guys doing forestry every year. We need to work on our forests, but there's a number that is, optimal for what the market requires. Greening in Nairobi, as I've said, is a priority. My office is at KICC. When you go to the top of KICC and just do a 360, you see the 3 ecological zones of Nairobi different. Some parts of Nairobi are extremely dry and brown. There's no rain. In fact, you wonder what the ancestors there did. Is there some prayers that need to be offered? Because there's no rain. Hakunyeshi, because there are no trees. It is serious interventions that stop desertification. In the 70s, there was an intervention by leaders of Muranga and Thika, if you know. That time it was led by George Muho, where they said they must plant trees. Today, if you go on Thika Road and you go towards past Thika as you go towards Ukambani, you will see the last tree planted. That they saved this place from drying up because of such an intervention. We must have a target. We will plant trees together with you as a private sector for Nairobi. And that will also help create jobs for our young people as they're engaged in the greening. David talked about 30 billion, about the budget. Let me tell you, Nairobi collects now 8 billion. In 2016, we collected 12.3 billion. That was before we gave it to KRA and NMS, because it was participatory. Nairobi has the potential of going up to 53 billion in terms of what we collect with the sectional properties law and the revaluation of the valuation roll. We've been using a valuation roll of the 70s. And I know many people, and the guys especially next door of property have an issue. We will agree that it won't be just a sudden spike, but we will break it down slowly. We can actually raise our revenue to more than 50 billion, 53 billion to be precise. On top of that, a lot, as you said, is being wasted. Let's cut down the waste. As governor, I don't need 20 cars. If you look at the hospitality budget, and I'm sure you've seen those who've been there before, we're wasting too much time. Let's put money where it is actually needed. But for the real serious interventions, I've spoken about the water system, I've spoken about the mass transit system. If I depend on the money that comes to Nairobi, you won't sort it out. You will not. So we want to have an infrastructure bond. We need around 200 B up front to sort out a lot of those issues. You will not sort it with the trickle down, the little money that comes every month. Right now we're around, how much is it in debt? 70 B? Thereabout? The debt, 72 billion, Some of those need debt swaps with national government. There's what we owe them, there's what they owe us. But we must think of how to increase our revenue. I've spoken to Kenyans around the world, in different places I've gone to diaspora. They're really willing to participate and put their money into something they can see being done in their capital city. So we need to be more innovative. A lot of our projects can be off balance sheet using PPP model. There are many things we can do, but we must be able to have that stimulus of 4.25 billion in each and every ward. If you do that, coupled with the 30% procurement law, let me tell you, in 2 years, you'll transform these young people, and you'll transform our communities. And the women must be front and center, and our cabinet will have 50% women. Is it there? Yeah. You said we must have 50%. Suba Churchill, you've asked what we will do differently. And I told you I have studied the previous governments of Kidero and of Sonko and NMS. The first thing to do different, if you want to fight cartels, is not to be part of them. You must refuse to be part of them. You must refuse their money. Even now during campaigns, they are offering. Me, I use what I have and what I get from people who have no commercial interest in the city. You must not do business with the capital yourself as a governor, because then you're conflicted. But then you must also know you cannot be a one-man show. That I am the guy who is going to sort out Nairobi. Oh, I am the best manager. No. Nairobi is formless. You touch this part goes up. You touch this part goes up. So what you need to do, first of all, is explain a proper, well-thought-out vision for the city of where we want to go to and get the proper managers in the different sectors. and guide them. Let them do their part. What the DG is in charge of, let him do it. What somebody in healthcare is in charge of, let them do it. But you create the vision, and you must have serious political resilience. Let me tell you. If you don't have political resilience, you'll resign day 2 in Nairobi. Because if it's not matatus, it is the MCAs impeaching. If it's not MCAs, it is the hawkers. If you don't have that political resilience. So I think what I'll do differently is work with people. Work with my team. I'm not a one-man show. Work with the private sector. And I'm not saying it this cause of campaign. I think, Carol, I'm the only senator who's ever asked for a round table with Kepsa. Isn't it true? Because I believe in this engagement. Area resident associations. Nairobians have amazing abilities. The work of the governor is not to come wave a magic wand, but make the best out of all of us as Nairobians to make our city work again. And my brother said, why make Nairobi work as opposed to make Nairobi great? We need to make Nairobi work. Nairobi is not working when you have to wake up your child at 4 a.m. to be in school at 8. Nairobi is not working when that mother had to lose a child because the approvals for an ambulance could not be found. It is not working. It is not working when there's no water in your taps. It comes twice a week, if at all. Let's just make the basics work. Order and dignity. Then it will become great once it is working. Nairobi must be a tourist capital. Every serious in fact, in some places, Nairobi is more famous than Kenya. And that's why I keep saying, what is the vibe? What is the identity of our city? What vibe are we trying to create? That this is a land of opportunities. A city of, and we must, it's a PR thing, by the way, to a great extent, to brand our city, to say this is what Nairobi is. We have an annual arts and cultural festival where we close down streets for 3 days. Let's showcase our different cultures. Let's bring food. Let's have, our artists. Some of these big bridges, they just look ugly with Kenhard designs. Our artists can do things on them. The other time when they were banning matatus having graffiti, I went to my friend Moha Graphics in Isili, Section 3. There had been a group of people from South Africa who came to see this matatu culture, which as we were banning because we don't like how it looks. Let's be innovative. We can actually brand Nairobi. Along the Nairobi River, there's a program by the Planning House, which I have come to love and we want to implement. We must widen that. This story of riparian of 30 meters is nonsense. In the UK, the parliament is on the river. You can coexist with the rivers, And those are tourist places. Imagine walking down Nairobi River that has been expanded and is clean, and on that side there are markets. On this side there are fresco restaurants where there's an umbrella and you sit and you enjoy your meal, That on this certain day we can have flea markets in town. We close down Aga Khan Walk and this other walk. Let's create that vibe around our city. And let me tell you, tourists are going to come. This is the only city capital in the world looking at animals in the natural habitat, and in the back is the skyline of the city. Why not do something around that? That you create a package working with KQ, that if somebody has come on this ndege, they land, they get on a train to the conferencing facility as they pass by the park, and then we can create proper packages to sell this vibe of what Nairobi must be. Finally, because Carol had mentioned it, disaster management. When that Huruma collapse happened, I was there. I rushed there. I was not even senator. I think it was before I was a nominated MP. But I rushed there. I was in Hurlingham. I got into Total. I bought milk and bread and rushed there. I stayed there for 3 nights. On the first night, people were fighting on who is in charge while people were dying inside. So with the Vijanas and probably the guys you called, we teamed up. I had to buy the cutters, ya kukata chuma, because National Disaster Management Authority, NDOC, the military, NYS were arguing on who is in charge. We lost 47 people because of that argument. We carried out babies. It told me 2 things. Number 1, to streamline disaster management. And that's why, together with Mutula Kilonzo, I sponsored the National Disaster Management Authority bill in Parliament, which passed the Senate, so that you just create, you stop this multiplicity of organizations. The next day you're called, Gikomba, there's a fire every day. This other place, there's this disaster. You must centralize it. Number 2, corruption costs lives. Corruption costs lives. Those buildings got approvals by someone. Those buildings, I challenge any of you, just go to Huruma today. Walk up that flight of stairs. I know I was heavy those days, but even now, you walk, you feel the building shaking. You see a crack from the top, someone just paints. You cannot have that. So we must bring down some of those, or tell them to improve them, because Those are lives at risk because of the desperation of urban housing. Let me leave it at that. Because of time, I'd love a long engagement sometime. I hope I've answered all the questions that were asked. Thank you.
Okay.
I wanted my DG maybe to take some, that maybe if I've left out something you can add.
No, I don't think really you have left much, but I should just say I'm happy to be here. I think I last addressed a gathering of Kepsa about 2 years ago, I think it was, at the Serena. So I think this is just a sign of our commitment to working with the private sector to ensure that we bring order and in the management of the city affairs, ensure that the things that we are used to in our otherwise orderly lives also translate to management of city affairs, management of what we get from the public and what we offer to the public. So I look forward to working closely with yourselves in the roles that have defined for me. In addition to the city management, I'll also be responsible for the licensing process and management of business and all that. So I think this is the right place to be. And having come from APSA, I feel very much at home here. So thank you very much for inviting us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that kind of brings us to the end. I know we've kind of quite overstayed on the calendar that we had agreed with the senator and the aspirant. So thank you very much for the time. I think a very good presentation and interesting. I think we always forget that even our political teams, they spend time thinking about what they're going to do. That September meeting, if it does come, the time comes, we shall be showing the video again and saying, yes, we had a meeting here. And we hope that that continued accountability can continue. So thank you everyone for coming in and participating in this. We'll just ask for one photo. You need a photo or we okay? They've taken? You're okay. All right. Thank you very much. And we hope you continue well with your campaigns. One other thing from Kenya Daima is always say, let's keep campaigns peaceful. And yes, asante sana. Thank you very much. All right.
Najivunia sana kwa Mkenya kwa sababu ni nchi ya amani.
Naweza tembea Kenya yote bila kusumbuliwa.
Kenya is one country that is most admired because of marathon runners.
Our culture is one of the best in the world.
Nashukuru kwa sababu ya demokrasia tulionayo.
Kenya ni nchi bora, yani yapendeza tu. Kenya si haba.
I think the most important quality of a leader is wisdom, so that the decisions that are being made now, he knows how, it's like a chess player who sees 10 moves ahead.
Unajua wakati ambapo mlipa ushuru analipa ushuru wake, anataka aone angalau kazi ya pesa yake ambayo anailipia. Hii pesa tunaamini kwa zinaishia kwa mifuko za watu binafsi.
I think it's important that wealth is declared frequently, and if people have found ways to accumulate wealth very quickly, absolutely good for them, as long as, of course, that is done honestly and ethically.
We need leaders who are well educated to understand the challenges that we face in the modern world.
Kwa mfano, mtu mwenye amesomea ukandarasi wa barabara, mkiwa na kiongozi ambaye amesomea hiyo taaluma, una uhakika kwamba barabara za eneo lako zitakuwa zina usimamizi mzuri.
The government is really trying, IT especially, and IT can be seen because of the wide Kenyan presence online.
We're able to transport guys easily and quickly through the SGR.
Sasa shida ya hii barabara tu moja ni choo. Hakuna choo huku barabarani.
Facilities zimekuja karibu, especially shule na moto kama stima. Sasa hii ziko mpaka kwa mashinani.
My two boys, both of them were delivered in a government facility. The maternity services off the hook.
You may find that in a hospital, it's more developed, yes, but there are no medicine, there are no doctors.
Dawa unanunua nje, kupimwa, unaenda unapimwa nje, sasa hapo ukuja ni kuandikiwa tu.
There's a lot of people walking around in the country with
mental health issues that have gone unidentified.
Kuna shida usalama sana cause unakuta watu hata during the day they are being robbed. Mostly even when you call the police, hakuna kitu watakusaidia nayo, they'll just tell you come and record statement. After that, nothing.
Kila mtu apewe huduma sawa, si ati wale wengine wale wenye nafasi ya juu wanapewa huduma za bora kushinda watu wa chini.
Platforms such as e-citizens are very useful in making it easier for citizens to be able to access the necessary and requisite documents that allow them to begin their journey of formalization.
Before Vision 2030, if you look at what we had in 2002 and before that, it's not comparable to what we have today. Today with Huduma centers, you can really do a lot. You know, passports and your driving license and, you know, your NHIF card and all that. I think those for me have been very impressive. Does the system work completely smooth? No.
Kwa mfano mimi nimezaliwa Nakuru, nimezaliwa mahali hapa inaitwa Bondeni Hospital. Nilipoenda kuchukua ID, nilikuwa vetted, of which I believe my documents za shule is enough documents to prove I'm a Kenyan and my birth certificate. Those are enough documents. So I don't know why you are being vetted. In fact, hata saa hizi watoto wetu wengi for the last 2 years hawajapata ID since COVID yanze because there was no vetting committee.
I lost my ID and I was going to replace it. It's been a month. Yet a friend of mine that we went to do it at the same time got it 2 weeks after.
I should be able to see the service being prepared for me and talk about the quality, about how it is being done. Is it going to achieve what I want? Is the cost right?
Kusema kweli, ukiangalia Wanakenya kijumla, hasa wale ambayo wamebobea katika biashara, wengi sana wanajivunia kuwa Wanakenya kwa sababu ya biashara. Biashara yote ambayo utaweka Kenya na ufanye katika njia nzuri, utakuta ya kwamba inanawiri sana. Ukiangalia wengi sana, kama tukikumbuka marehemu Chris Kirobi, alikuwa ni mfanyabiashara mzuri sana na amebobea kwa sababu ni mwekezaji, local investor, lakini alibobea vizuri sana katika biashara yake. Na kuna wengi ambaye pia wamefanya biashara hapa Kenya kwa kuweka rasilimali zao na wakaendelea vizuri sana, na hii huwa inaendeleza katika uchumi ya Kenya.
Geographically, we're in a solid position where we are. We have the port, we have all that, and we are a hub. Can we become a better hub?
Or the ultimate goal and objective of Vision 2030 is to create a middle income